Welcome to my channel, Real Valor Stories. Today's story is one that will leave you breathless and emotional. It's a story about respect, about strength, and about a woman whose calm silence taught everyone around her the true meaning of power. The mess hall at camp. Orion buzzed with laughter and noise. Plates clattered, voices echoed, and the smell of breakfast filled the air. It was a regular morning, but for one new recruit, it was going to be a day she would never forget. Her name was Avery Collins. She was quiet, her uniform perfectly pressed, her boots spotless. She carried herself differently from the rest. Calm, composed, with a kind of confidence that came from something deeper than training. The others noticed her the moment she walked in. She wasn't loud. She didn't joke like the others. And she didn't look nervous like most recruits on their first week. That calmness, that quiet strength made her stand out, and not everyone liked it. At a corner table, 4 recruits, Reed, Baxter, Nolan, and Cruz, watched her closely. They were young, cocky, and desperate to prove themselves. They had been bragging all morning about their upcoming drills and how tough they were. When Avery sat down alone, they smirked. "Look at the new girl," Reed muttered, with a grin. "Thinks she's too good for us?" Baxter laughed. "Yeah, probably. Thinks she's already an officer." Cruz leaned back in his chair. "Let's see how tough she really is." They stood up and walked toward her. The mess hall quieted slightly, curious eyes following as the 4 approached the lone woman sitting calmly at the center table. Avery didn't look up immediately. She just continued eating her oatmeal, slow and steady, as if she hadn't noticed them. "Hey, new recruit," Nolan said loudly. "You too. Good to sit with the rest of us." Avery finally looked up. Her eyes were calm, steady, and unflinching. "I didn't think anyone wanted company," she said simply. Reed chuckled. "Oh, we do. We just want to make sure you know how things work around here." Avery tilted her head slightly. "And how's that?" "You respect the people who've been here longer," Cruz said, crossing his arms. "You don't just walk in like you own the place." "I didn't realize eating quietly was a problem," she replied softly. The calmness in her voice somehow made them angrier. Baxter slammed his hand on the table, making her tray rattle. "Don't get smart with us," he growled. The room had gone completely silent now. Every recruit in the hall watched. The cooks froze. Even the officers by the door turned to see what was happening. Avery didn't flinch. She just stared at Baxter for a moment, then slowly stood up. She wasn't tall, but there was something in the way she moved. Controlled, deliberate, almost like a predator assessing its surroundings. "You should sit back down," she said quietly. Reed laughed. "Or what you going to report us?" Avery took one slow step forward. Her eyes were locked on his. "No," she said. "I'll just handle it here." That sentence hit harder than any shout could have. The 4 recruits exchanged glances, not sure if she was joking. Then Cruz, trying to show off, reached out and grabbed her wrist. And that's when everything changed. In less than a second, Avery twisted her arm free, grabbed his hand, and flipped him onto the floor with a move so fast that no one saw it coming. Cruz hit the ground hard, gasping for air. Before the others could react, she turned, blocked Baxter's swing, and swept his legs out from under him. Reed lunged forward, but she stepped aside and caught his arm, using his momentum to throw him across the table. Nolan froze, staring in shock. 45 seconds. That's all it took. 4 trained recruits, all on the ground, groaning in pain. Avery stood still, her breathing calm, her expression unchanged. The room was dead. Silent. Then, from the doorway, a deep voice broke the silence. "At ease, Chief Collins." Every head in the mess hall turned. Standing at the door was Commander Hayes, one of the most respected officers on base. The recruits snapped to attention instantly, their faces pale. Avery turned to him, gave a sharp salute, and replied, "Sir." The commander nodded. "Good to have you back, Chief. Didn't expect you to be breaking in the new recruits this early." A wave of shock rolled through the room. "Chief." That word hit the recruits like a hammer. Chief meant Navy SEAL, not just any soldier, one of the Elite. The 4 recruits looked at her. In disbelief. The woman they had mocked, surrounded, and tried to intimidate was a Navy SEAL, a legend in the military world. Commander Hayes walked closer. For those who don't know, he said firmly, Chief Avery Collins completed 6 deployments, led extraction missions behind enemy lines, and trained some of the best operatives we have today. She's not here as a recruit. She's here to evaluate you. The recruits' faces turned red. Nolan stammered. Sir, we didn't. No. That's exactly the problem, the commander interrupted. You judged. Before you knew. You thought rank made you strong. But strength isn't about loud voices or clenched fists. It's about discipline. It's about control. Chief Collins just showed you that. Avery glanced at the 4 on the ground, her eyes soft now, almost forgiving. We all make mistakes, she said. What matters is how we learn from them. She turned, picked up her tray, and calmly walked out of the hall. The recruits stood frozen, watching her go. No one dared to speak. Later that evening, the same 4 recruits found themselves outside the training field. Avery was there, sitting on the bleachers, watching the sunset. They hesitated before walking up to her. Reed was the first to speak. Chief, we wanted to apologize. We were out of line. Avery looked at them for a long moment, then nodded. You were. But apology accepted. Baxter frowned. Why didn't you just tell us who you were? Because respect shouldn't come from rank, she said quietly. It should come from how you treat people. If I told you my title, you'd have acted different. I wanted to see who you really were. Cruz looked down, ashamed. We failed that test. Avery smiled faintly. You stumbled, but you got back up. That's what matters. They sat in silence for a while. The wind was cool, carrying the distant sound of drills from the field. Chief, Nolan said finally, can I ask you something? What's it like being a SEAL? Avery thought for a moment. It's not about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about never quitting. It's about standing up when everyone else gives up. It's about trust. Trusting your team, trusting your training, and trusting yourself. The recruits nodded, slowly, letting her words sink in. Avery stood and looked out at the horizon. One day, you'll understand that strength isn't in your fists or your voice. It's in your heart. The real battles aren't always fought on the field. They're fought inside you. Her words hung in the air long after she walked away. In the days that followed, the recruits trained harder than ever. They learned to move as a unit, to respect each other, and to lead through example, not fear. And every time they passed Chief Collins, they stood a little taller, spoke a little softer, and remembered that lesson. Weeks later, during an early morning drill, the commander stood watching as Avery supervised the recruits. Reed and his team moved with precision, working together flawlessly. When the drill ended, Commander Hayes turned to Avery. You did good with them, he said. Avery smiled slightly. They did it themselves. They just needed a reminder of what they're capable of. As the sun rose behind her, painting the camp in gold, she felt a quiet pride. Not for the fight she had won that day in the mess hall, but for the change she had sparked in those young soldiers. They had come to respect her, not because she was a Navy SEAL, but because she had shown them what real strength looks like. Calm, patient, unshakable. And somewhere deep down, each of them knew that moment in the mess hall would stay with them forever. Because in 45 seconds, Chief Avery Collins didn't just teach them a lesson about respect. She taught them what it truly means to wear the uniform. Like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional and cinematic stories from Real Valor Story.